Okay. So let's talk about the strike zone and home plate because this is really important. So the counts determine where we're going to aim on the plate. And one of the major things that's going to determine where we aim is the concept of margin for error. So margin for error means how much you can miss and still do the job. So if you were kicking into a soccer goal, would you aim to the edge if there was no goalie? Would you aim to the edge? No. You would still aim for the middle because then you can miss to the right, you can miss to the left, and still kick it in the goal, right? So in pitching, one of the first goals early in the count is to just throw a strike and get ahead of the hitter. So the reason we aim down the middle is not because we want to throw the pitch actually down the middle, right? This is an easy pitch to hit. This is where good hitters want to hit the ball, right? So then a valid question would be, well, if hitters like this pitch, why would I choose to throw it here, right? We only aim down the middle because our goal is to give us the most margin for error to throw a strike and get ahead of the hitter. Because when you're down in the count, say you're hitting and you have 2 strikes, and a pitcher throws a ball over here, you might swing at it because you're afraid of the umpire calling you out on strikes, right? Does that make sense? So this is what we call making a hitter expand the strike zone. So as a pitcher gets ahead in the count, when he gets more strikes on the hitter, so such as 0-1 or 1-2 or 0-2, hitters become defensive and they start to swing at pitches that they ordinarily know are not good pitches to hit. So for this reason, as a pitcher, one of your best strategies is to try to get ahead in the count to get a strike as early as possible, especially on the first pitch. And now the more strikes I get as a pitcher, so say I'm 0-2, the consequences of me throwing a ball and then throwing a ball, they're not very high because I still am 2-2 in the count, right? So the more I'm ahead, the more room I have to miss, and the more hitters will help me out by swinging at bad pitches, all right? So as a hitter, it works the opposite way. If a pitcher falls behind in the count, so say you're hitting and it's 2 balls and no strikes, there's no reason you should swing at a pitch over here because there's no risk of you getting called out on strikes, right? So as a hitter, when you're ahead in the count, when there's more balls than strikes, your acceptable zone of stuff you swing at gets smaller. You get more selective. So when a hitter is behind in the count, he will swing at more bad pitches because he's defensive. When a hitter is ahead in the count, meaning the hitter has more balls than strikes, he does not have to swing at these pitches. He will then contract the amount of pitches he will swing at. He will only swing at the very best pitches in the middle of the zone. Does that make sense to everyone thus far? So playing this strategy is important. As a pitcher, you want to get ahead as soon as possible, and the more ahead of the hitter you are as a pitcher, the more you then can start to aim for the edges of the plate. If a pitcher falls behind the count, so say I throw ball 1 and then I throw ball 2, now I need to go back over the middle to give myself margin for error to try to catch up in the count so I don't walk him. So there's always this risk and reward of where we're aiming based on what the count is. So the way we then sort of choose our locations are kind of by slicing the plate into either halves, thirds, or corners. So in these 4 different zones, number 1 is down the middle. So this gives us, again, the most margin for error. And pitchers will aim down the middle when we're either behind in the count or it's the first pitch because we want to try to get a strike as soon as possible. So we would throw down the middle on 0-0, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, 2-1. And then once you've gotten a strike, we're going to cut the plate into 2 halves and we're going to throw to the middle of each half. And our catcher will move so the center of his body is centered up with that half of the plate. So now I'm still aiming for a lot of the plate, so I still have a lot of margin for error, but I'm starting to lose a little bit. So when you're on the half, I can still miss here, I can still miss here, I can still miss all the way over here and still get a strike. So we would go to halves when we're even counts, 1-1, 2-2, 3-2. Because when we're at an even count, it's still very important to get to the next ahead count or end the at bat. So 1-1, getting to 1-2 is very important. So then the next thing, we would slice the plate into thirds. So middle third, this side third, and this side third. So it could be inner third or outer third, inner third or outer third. And then we're gonna pitch, ignore the middle third, and we're gonna pitch to the center of this third or this third. So now you can see we're starting to lose margin for error over here, right? You could be very accurate, but this is a ball. But because we're going to use this in accounts when we're ahead, it's okay that we don't have as much margin for error. So we're going to throw to the thirds, like one or the other, on 0 and 1 or 1 and 2 for the most part. Now, if we go to thirds early, so say it's the first pitch and we aim for the third and we miss, now we're behind in the count and now we have to try to catch up, so we end up going back over. That's why you want to start going to the edges of the plate only when you start to get ahead of the hitter. Okay, so again, 0-1 or 1-2 are thirds. And then lastly, when we're 0-2, we're super far ahead of the hitter, so we can aim for the corners with no downside really. Now, when we're 0-2, our goal as a pitcher is probably to get a strikeout if we can on that one pitch. So that means throwing a pitch that's a borderline ball or strike. This is the time where if we threw a curveball, we would try to bounce the curveball or throw the slider that breaks out of the zone or elevate a fastball because hitters like to chase high fastballs. So on 0-2, we might go on the corner, we might elevate a fastball to get them to chase, we might bounce a curveball, or we might have a slider that breaks out of the zone. The goal on 0-2 is to throw a pitch that looks like a strike, but ends up a ball by time they swing. But we won't try to get strikeouts on any of the other counts, because if we try to do that, we're gonna end up bouncing too many pitches, missing too much, and our pitch count will get very, very high, and then pitchers won't be able to pitch very deep into games. They won't be able to pitch many innings. So for starting pitchers especially, we need you to go 5, 6, 7 innings. That means only 12 or 15 pitches per inning. So if you're trying to strike everyone out and now you're throwing 6 pitches per batter, you're not going to end up making that 5, 6, 7 innings that we need from you as a team. So starting pitchers, hopefully you can give your team 6 or 7 innings. But in 7 innings, you're going to typically face about 30 batters. And for a starting pitcher, you usually won't throw more than 100 pitches in a start. So if you do the math, 100 pitches divided by 30 hitters is about 3.5 pitches per at bat. So 3.5 pitches per at bat means we need to have hitters put the ball in play early and get out early in the count in 1, 2, or 3 pitches. For us to go 6 or 7 innings and on only 100 pitches, we need every batter to get the ball into play in hopefully less than 4 pitches. So our goal as pitchers for almost every count, except for 0-2, is to have the hitter hit the ball. We want him to put the ball into play. That means to hit it into fair territory.
Onların...
You're doing fine, keep going. His brain is melting right now. There's a lot of translation.
Yes, a lot of...
terms you don't probably have a word for.
I'm not used to it. Can you repeat it again?
So our goal is as a pitcher is to get weak contact. We want the hitter to hit the ball early in the count. If we get them to hit the ball weakly early in the count, we'll get outs fast, and pitchers will be able to pitch lots of innings, which helps the team. Whereas if you try to strike everyone out, you'll end up throwing 5, 6, 7 pitches per at bat, and then you won't be able to make it very many innings. So let's talk about that from the hitter's perspective a little bit more. So hitters, your goal is always to drive pitches that are in the middle of the plate, in the middle of the strike zone. So your goal is pitches on the edge of the strike zone or that are balls, we want to take them and not swing at them. As a hitter, when you get ahead in the count, meaning there's more balls than strikes, your goal is to have a smaller, more selective strike zone of pitches that you swing at. When you fall behind in the count, you do have to protect from striking out a little bit more, which means you have to swing at pitches that are more borderline. But your goal as a hitter is only to swing at these borderline pitches when you have to. Only when it's like 1-2 or 0-2 where you might strike out. Otherwise, take those pitches and wait for a pitch that's more in the center portion of the plate. So we looked at some heat maps earlier, right, of some major league players. They swing the most when the ball is in the middle, and they take the most when the ball is in a part of the zone or is a ball when they can't drive that pitch very well. And the thing to remember, the number one best thing you can do as a hitter is not make an out. Outs are the most valuable thing in baseball. So yeah, a home run is more valuable than a single. But if you can go up there and walk or get a base hit, those are the best things that you can possibly do. So it pays off to be selective on the stuff on the pitches that you swing at. Because if you're very selective, pitchers will miss a lot and their pitch counts will go up, which means the best pitchers will have to get replaced by relief pitchers. When you take more pitches, you will get ahead in the count more often. You will walk more often, which puts runners on bases, and runners on bases, or runners on base, gives you a chance to score. And lastly, you won't waste your swings on pitches that you can't hit hard. This is a very hard pitch to hit hard, no matter how good you are. So you want to save your swings for when you have a better chance of hitting the ball hard. So it is a very good thing as a hitter to be patient and to be selective, to only swing at the best strikes that you want to swing at.